India has over 50 satellites in orbit around Earth. And the satellites are made at the U.R. Rao Satellite Center in Bengaluru. And I have with me Mr. M Sankaran, the director of the U.R. Rao Satellite Center, somebody who's been involved as a power system specialist. That's why I call him the powerhouse of ISRO. If India's Chandrayaan 1 was a grand success for finding presence of water molecules on the lunar surface, Chandrayaan 3 created history by soft landing nearer the moon. Dr. Sankaran, you were doubtful, and you said that in the discussions about the success of Vikram lander. Were the doubts based on any kind of apprehensions or just the fact that there are so many parameters that need to work?
Yeah, my doubt was more to do with the possibilities of how many things that can go wrong. Everybody was confident around me that 100% it is going to be successful, but that 100% only was troubling me, because having been in this business for so long, I know there are hundreds of things that could have gone wrong, but the hard work and the preparation paid off. But how much ever we prepare, there is always something, you still feel something more could have been done. That was the reason why I was not able to exude that 100% confidence before landing. Yes, I was confident, my team was supremely confident, but I had kept my fingers crossed. But it happened like a dream.
It happened like a dream. Was there anything in your opinion you could have done better in Chandrayaan 3?
Chandrayaan 3 mission as an accomplishment, I don't think there is anything we could have done better in that mission. The achievement is on dot, where we predicted it exactly landed on dot. So there is nothing more for that design we could have expected. But if you ask me whether Chandrayaan 3 could have been made grander, more things, yes, we always feel that yes, we could have added more things into the mission by reducing some of the redundancies, because we built so many backups and fail safes. Now everything has worked well. We could have taken some little risk and added some more equipments. That is what I feel today.
That is in hindsight. Yes. Now, beyond that, are we planning a sample return mission from the moon? Are we planning, what are we planning next?
No, it's a natural progression. Once we land on a planetary body, the next logical step is to bring something back from there. The next one would be to send a human there. These are all logical steps, and the work is already going on. We are already identifying a mission concept, how this kind of sample return from moon can be achieved with our available resources, like our launch vehicle capacity, our wherewithal to do a mission again to go to moon. We have, with all these known constraints, we are already working on configuration which can ultimately result in a sample return mission. Yes.
How soon?
Maybe 2-3 years is the earliest we can go to hardware realization phase. At least 2 years it will take for us to come to hardware realization. Maybe 3 to 4 years is not a bad time to expect this. Yes, 3 to 4 years it can happen.
You also had the Mars orbiter mission of Mangalyaan, and you have spoken about a landing on Mars. What is the preparation from ISRO or the landing on Mars?
Past couple of years we have been studying the mission configuration for a lander to Mars. There were two things which were holding back. One is the Chandrayaan 2's unsuccessful attempt, so which slightly slowed us down about our confidence on the sensors that are required for landing. So now that we have, because it is not that sensors did not perform well in Chandrayaan 2, sensors did perform well, but since we did not achieve the final goal, we were not fully confident these sensors are adequate. Now we know that what can be done with these sensors, we can now move about that. One obstacle has been now removed. The second one is related to our ability to put higher mass into orbit. Now, with the present LVM3 capacity, still we have a gap for our landing requirement to Mars, because the energy requirement to go to Mars and land there is quite high. The landing in Mars has its own challenges. In addition to the gravity field, like what is there in Moon, the atmosphere also poses it is
a challenge.
The heating that happens during the entry into the Martian atmosphere will call for additional protections, thermal protections, which is again mass. So, we are studying that. Now, already in the launch vehicle side also there have been enhancements that are going on, and we do expect in another 2 years the launch vehicle should be able to give us at least another 20-30% more. So, I think we have now a case with that as the target, about 20% increase in the vehicle capacity in 2 to 3 years. We should be able to come out with a strategy for a lander. Already we have a outline. We have to only now finalize this and move forward.
Wonderful. And Prime Minister also asked for Shukrayaan, or a mission to Venus. How is that shaping up?
That also we had actually gone up to the presenting for internal reviews in our committees, the Shukrayaan concepts. That is going to be an orbiter. That concept have been presented. Now that this success has given more confidence not only to us, but also to the establishment, I think it should be possible for us to carry it forward. Yes.
When can we expect it?
See, these Mars and Venus missions have cyclic opportunities in terms of energy. You can launch any day, you can go.
Because the availability of the planet closer to you.
Yeah, depending upon the relative positions of the planet Earth and Sun, some of the years we get opportunity with the minimum energy requirement. That for Venus may happen in another 2 years, which is too short for us now to make another mission. Maybe 4 or 5 years down the line, yes, we can look at Venus mission.
Now, coming back to what are bread and butter missions for ISRO, and which is important for you and me, which is the Earth imaging. You have the mission called NISAR, the NASA-ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar. I believe the instrumentation from NASA has already come here. What is the status, sir?
The spacecraft has been now fully integrated. It is right now in the antenna testing, because the major part of this spacecraft is a 12-meter unfurlable antenna, which is delivered by NASA. So, now the RF radiated mode testing is going on. Once this testing is completed, we will move the satellite to the thermal vacuum chamber. So, we are in the home stretch after this is this test is through, and there are no observations. We are on the home stretch.
After a long gap, we will see a real collaboration between ISRO and NASA, which is essentially the world's largest democracy and the world's oldest democracy. What is special about NISAR?
See, NISAR is a really huge satellite for Earth observation, very expensive, and also it is going to introduce a new technique in synthetic aperture radar. Synthetic aperture radar by itself is a relatively new technique for Earth observation, which there are a number of satellites now in orbit, both Indian as well as others. But NISAR is going to introduce a new technique called sweep-SAR. This sweep-SAR technique is going to be used in spacecraft for the first time in NISAR. This is going to allow the radar to have a very high resolution, very wide swath imaging of the area, because the swath and resolution are actually complementary to each other.
Sure.
Generally, a high resolution satellite will have a low swath, whereas NISAR is going to have a very wide swath and a high resolution. This is a first of its kind technology that is going to be done in space by this NISAR spacecraft.
Sir, one point which people say, it's the world's single most expensive Earth imaging civilian satellite, costing about $1.5 billion. Why is the NASA component over $1.2 billion, and why is the ISRO component comparatively lower cost?
This is nothing special only for NISR. Typically, any satellite particularly a satellite which involves a new development is going to be cheaper in India compared to anywhere else, because our development costs are a fraction of what anybody else in the world does. Maybe the production cost may not be too much lesser, or once the development is completed, the cost may not be too much different, but a new development, generally our costs are way lower than any other people in the world, because our methods of development, qualification and testing are different from the
Do
Western.
you cut corners, that is why it is cheaper, or is it because that we pay lower salaries? How is that, sir? 5 times difference.
No, it is a strategy. It is not there. Nobody can cut any corner in the business of space, because having been in this business of space, we know not to cut any corners. No corner can be cut, because that is going to be a sharp edge and is going to hurt you badly, real badly. But it is, as I said, how many models you make for testing, what type of test you will do. These are all the things that are involved in this cost cutting. Salary is still a component. There, I would not too much emphasize on the salary, but though that is also lesser for us. Our salaries are way far lower than others. More than that, other costs, the paraphernalia. For example, if American or European comes to India, the hotel what they stay, they may pay $500 a day, whereas we go to US, we pay $150, we stay in such hotels. So there are lot of differences in the way everybody, most of the people flies economy from India, except the very top persons, whereas everybody flies business. So these are all costs.
Also, would it make a difference, because see, you don't make engineering models. All other countries usually make engineering models. Does that add to the cost?
Yes, that also adds, because that is what I was trying to tell. What is our philosophy of testing? How many tests can be done with 1 or 2 models, or whether you really require a full all systems for every test. So these are the differences in the approaches. There are there can be difference in opinion about which is right, which is wrong, but our approach has proved to be good enough for us and allows us to achieve nearly what others are able to achieve in much lesser cost.
Also, would it also make a difference, because see, in America, NASA doesn't make, it outsources to Boeing or Lockheed Martin or one of the bigger companies. So there's a commercial operation and they have a dividend to pay, shareholders to answer to, whereas at ISRO, it is a government entity, you don't have shareholders to answer to. Does that make a difference?
Yeah, it does make, but not in the sense how you described it. It is slightly different. One is, there is no profit making here. Any company which makes it for NASA will have to make a minimum profit. Whereas ISRO doesn't make a profit, and also the credit must also go to our own subcontractors, our industry. They do this work for minimum return from the investment. This kind of say 5%, 10% return, people do the work. Nowhere in the world you will be able to get a subcontractor who will be able to do this type of work for that kind of return.
Also, what about insurance cost? Because overseas, see, they need to take insurance, whereas here it's a government thing, so it's the corpus and the government of India's sovereign guarantee. Does that make a difference?
It does make a difference, because the insurance is a huge amount of burden for the budget. About 10-20% generally it takes if I have to insure everything, and we are insuring against what? That is a question. Correct. If we are doing, if I am manufacturing things in my facility, I need to make sure that no accident happens here. Absolutely. I rather spend the money on
quality assurance,
ensuring my fire system works properly. I don't get into the problem, rather than pay insurance and try to recover the money after a problem. We focus on not to have the problem rather than.
Sure. So NISAR would essentially be looking to give support for disaster management and issues related to landslides and different kinds of water issues around the earth, and climate change?
Primarily, it is a climate change mission. It is going to look at how the earth deforms, particularly ice and the biosphere, how they deform and what are the reasons behind it, how it evolves over a period of time. The ice caps, the earthquakes and the tree cover and greenery cover, how they are evolving over a period of time. This is to study that. Actually, this mission when originally was conceived by NASA, it was a mission which was conceived by NASA, and since they couldn't go through with they on their own, they approached ISRO and this became a joint mission because they could not get the funding for the whole mission. So, that time it was called as Destiny, that is the deformation of the polar ice, that was the the main theme of the mission. Yeah. Now, to that we have added many more things. We have added our own S-band SAR, which is also going to add two frequency imaging, which is going to add much more value than to a single L-band SAR, which originally conceived by NASA.
Is there technology transfer from NASA on this, or it's their component, they handle, our component we handle?
Yes, there is no technology transfer from either side. The SR payload is completely developed by us and delivered, and LSAR payload and the 12 meter unfurlable antenna is realized by NASA and delivered. So, each team has their own know-how. The outcome is going to be shared by ISRO, NASA as well as the whole world.
So, they have delivered like a black box, like they delivered in Chandrayaan 1 those instruments from Kali Peters and others. They were like black boxes. They are like black boxes closed. We cannot.
I wouldn't call them black box. We know sufficiently good amount of information about those instruments, but not all the details, which is not really required for integrating and testing. What is required for integrating, testing and operating the missions, to that much we know the information.
Now, you also have a very ambitious mission which will feed into, if we ever have a space station, is the experiment for docking. What is that, and when will we do?
So, this mission is called the SPADEX mission, the space docking experiment. The idea is to launch 2 satellites and separate them by few hundreds of or 1,000 kilometers and bring them again and make them to dock. As you rightly mentioned, as a precursor for future sustained presence in space. For this we require to have the ability to have a body already in space, and another body should be able to go and attach to it to that. So, this experiment is progressing well. All the sub assemblies have been realized, qualification is going on. We are looking at the possibility of executing this mission by the second half of next year.
Now, in SPADEX, are we using the international standard docking doorways, or we have our own?
No, this is not the same as the ISS standard docking interface. This is smaller, but it is similar to the standard docking interface, but this is smaller. The diameter is slightly smaller because this mission what we are planning are 2 small satellites, what are known as the IMS-1 class of satellites, typically 150 to 200 kilograms. Right. So, because our size of our spacecraft is small, the docking interface also size has been slightly reduced, but it is going to be similar to the International Space Station standard docking.
But I am told, see, the docking we have is a 21st century version, whereas the ISS kind of docking is 20th century docking, which is a very different way. Maybe heritage, but it requires a different kind of effort. Ours requires lesser effort and it's more robust, I am told. Is that correct, sir?
I would not say there is any difference like that. See, the definition of the standard port is fixed. That is there for anybody to use. What additional features you want to build for the approaching vehicle, because the space station docking interfaces is going to remain the same. Correct. It is not going to get changed, but the approaching vehicle can add more and more sensors and mechanisms which can make the docking easier and more accurate. So that is what everybody is doing, not only us, whoever is now developing new docking, like for example SpaceX has developed a new docking system which has been used now for last 2 years. So all people who are developing newly now the approaching vehicle docking system include their own sensors and actuators mechanism, so that the docking becomes simpler and autonomous. So we are also working towards that only.
Now we have behind us one of our earliest Apple satellites. On communications and navigation, etc., how are we progressing? Because that is really your bread and butter satellites.
Yeah, the bread and butter not for ISRO, the bread and butter for the country.
Country,
yes,
correct.
yes, because the orbital resources, particularly the slots and frequency allocation, these are assets for the country. Today we cannot tell that today X, Y, Z is not interested in using. As and when they are interested, we will get it. That does not work, because when we need it, it is not going to be there, because it is a finite resource and being allocated on first come first served basis. So it is important that the communication and navigation infrastructure of the country is made robust enough. That is why a lot of communication satellites are also being realized and being proposed also. As you know, last year we had the GSAT 24 launch. Now for NSIL we are making a new satellite called GSAT 20, which will be a very high throughput satellite meeting the specific requirement of NSIL and its customer. And we have also been proposing that we should have this spectrum and orbital resources acquired by the country. Who acquires, ISRO acquires or NSIL acquires or any private party acquires, really does not matter, but it needs to be acquired and maintained by us for posterity, because after 5 years when I want 1 terabyte per second data rate I want to be given for my business to flourish, you are not going to get the slots and frequency coordination. So this is an important area which we are trying to project as a requirement, not looking at today's returns, but bring it for as a asset for the country.
How will the URSC or the Satellite Center kind of recalibrate with the new age private space companies coming up? Increasingly we are seeing the smaller companies sending 1 satellite, 2 satellite here, there. They will obviously boom in times to come.
It has to happen.
Will you compete with them? How will that happen?
No, there is no competition. In fact, we are trying to help them to achieve their goals faster. It is not that we see these private companies as competitors for us. If this country has to flourish in future, it is necessary that in these domains, particularly the Earth observation applications and communication spacecraft, private industry has to invest so that they can make profit out of it. Making profit is the only way to entice business to enter the space market. So the application domain in Earth observation and communication are 2 areas we really welcome anybody who is able to come in and make a difference. Yes.
They may do better than you.
They have to do better than us, because see, all said and done, we are a bigger and an organization with some mass to it. Any entity which has a mass, has an inertia, will need little more effort to become
change
agile.
Direction.
Whereas the new age companies are supposed to be very nimble and agile. Sure. And that is what is required today. If we want to, we are not competing to get that market what we are having. We have to compete to get the market what other international players are having. We have to bring that market to India. That is what we are looking at.
Sure, that is why you have people like Anant Technologies, which have created infrastructure which is so large and so well placed for making these smaller constellations of satellites at lower cost. So you don't think these new age companies will give you a competition and you will shut down?
No, because we are really looking forward to some of these new age companies to unload this type of work which can be done by them, so that we can concentrate on some other work which it is not commercially viable for any private firms to do. We want to concentrate on the work only as a government entity we can do. Not today we are doing many things because there is nobody else to do. We want to change that. We definitely want these private companies to enter into those areas where they can make some money.
So exciting times for the larger space ecosystem in India, because now it's no longer ISRO, it's larger than that. So it's an ecosystem, very exciting time for them. And you?
See, it is not an easy domain where anybody can simply come in and make a business out of it. But if somebody has a new idea and is able to persevere and do things differently, yes, it is going to be very rewarding for even those new companies who are coming in. So if they are succeeding, it is a success of this country. That is why we are all excited. We are all supporting as and when a non-governmental entity is approaching us for help. Without a second thought, we are agreeing and giving them our own facilities. We give our knowledge. We have even transferred the technology and all documentations for the IMS-1 type of satellite, and IMS-2 satellite technology transfer documents are being made now. So there is no reluctance on the part of ISRO and URSC to share our knowledge with the private entities.
Have you started bleeding people? Because now people will start getting lured with, if you get 2 lakh rupees as salary at ISRO and URSC, and if they offer 10 lakh salary at a private company, have you started bleeding people?
Not particularly, not in very large numbers, but this has been happening over last 1.5 decade. People are coming and going, but the number of people leaving is not a very large percentage. It is still not alarming, but it is also a fact we have to also face, that on a government organization, you can't expect that within 2 years or 5 years you will be paid millions of rupees as salary. It is not possible, it will not happen. So for those who have that kind of aspiration, this is not the place to continue. They can jolly well go where they get this kind of remuneration. We wish well for them. We have no problem with that.
Sure. And you have done well and done over 3 decades of satellite making for India. How many satellites have you made in this long career?
See, URSC has made more than 120. I would have been part of at least about 65-70 of them.
My God, that's a large number. India is very proud of you, and thank you very much for giving us the beautiful soft landing of Chandrayaan 3 on nearer the south pole of the moon. You made India proud. You were leading the team which corrected the effort in Chandrayaan 2 to Chandrayaan 3, and now like you yourself said, you have set the bar very high, and people want even more spectacular success, and I'm sure you will be able to do that.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for speaking
to
me and explaining the complexities of satellite making, and also the beautiful mission of NISAR, the first big 21st century Indo-US collaboration in space.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for you.
So that was Mr. Sankaran, the director of the U.R. Rao Satellite Center, telling us about the future missions of the Indian Space Research Organization. And some things which excite me are the NASA-ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar, which is essentially a satellite which will look for changes of climate change, and then the docking experiment. I'm very much looking forward to that, because that is a gateway to having our own space station in the low Earth orbit. From inside the U.R. Rao Satellite Center of the Indian Space Research Organization, with camera person Kumar, Pallav Bagla for NDTV.